self-care is important, but self-love is a very thin line between, okay, when the Bible tells you the heart is deceitful above all things and wicked, who can trust it, man? Even just one tiny morsel of self-love is enough to grow into a forest of self-love, which will cover up what God's love is supposed to be. Because when you're told we die in Christ, and then it becomes not I but Christ who lives in me, it will make it difficult for you to understand that self-love is good, but you can't trust it, because at what point will you feel satisfied with it?
Can I change the conversation? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So I want to link two things. I'll start with what Chala has said. He's spoken about the 10 Commandments, and before God is giving these laws, etc., he says, I'm the Lord your God, who brought you out of the house of bondage. So God takes you out of slavery first before you obey him, because he knows you can't with the shackles. Then he takes us back to what love is. God does not leave us without an idea of what he's expecting of us. So let me just read this version. It was very interesting. I came across it. Apparently this was love, and I think I just closed the book and I was like, where? So I'm reading the 1 Corinthians 13. So this version says, this love of which I speak is, number 1, slow to lose patience. It looks for a way of being constructive. It is not possessive. It is neither anxious to impress, nor does it cherish inflated ideas of its own importance. Love has good manners and does not pursue selfish advantage. It is not touchy. It does not keep account of evil or gloat over the wickedness of other people. On the contrary, it is glad with all men when truth prevails. Love knows no limit to its endurance, no end to its trust, no fading of its hope. It can outlast anything. It is in fact the one thing that still stands when all else has fallen. So God tells us this is how he loves us. And he says if you're supposed to love yourself, you're supposed to endure. It also says you're not supposed to lose hope in yourself. You're supposed to also trust yourself when things really are not making sense. It also says it does not give account of evil. Yes, you did something 5 years ago, but God is saying, let it go, because when you come back to me, I also let it go. So he says, I will get rid of that bondage, then show you how you are supposed to love yourself. So now love yourself. Then extend the same grace to others. And I think now that is love.
I think I'd like to change what we're talking about a bit and ask a different question. So all these things that we're being told are not who we are. Like literally, God telling you to be patient and to be kind and not to be sad is opposite to what we feel like doing.
Yes.
Kwani God doesn't care about our emotions. Because if love isn't an emotion, then where do emotions come in? When we are loving other people.
Okay. Then an attempt to answer. I feel like it's a good question, but I feel like it's not an easy question to answer. Because that question assumes that our emotions are in the state they're supposed to be from creation. Like that question assumes that the emotions we have now are not distorted by sin in any way. Like the way we're having emotions now is the same way God intended us to have emotions in Garden of Eden. So you have to account that sin has taken place and sin has distorted us from then till now. So anxiety, all these things, I'm not particularly sure I feel like these are all products of how we've degenerated because of sin. So I think first we have to take account of that. Then I feel like that is even more so why love is such a strong thing, because it's not an emotion, because it stands the test of time. Because clearly we've degenerated and our emotions are not what they're supposed to be. So we can't really rely on them, on what love ought to be.
But they're still there. So like, how do you love them?
What I think is, Jesus didn't actually feel like dying.
Yes.
Like he wasn't. It wasn't a good feeling. He didn't feel like dying, and it gets to a point he even tells
Ask
God
God.
to take this cup. You know,
Take this
and
cup,
if
throw it away.
it wills, if you will, but if not, he will still go through with it. I think the fact that love is a principle is despite our feelings, and I hope we get
Yes.
there, but sin has degraded us terribly. So despite our feelings, if it is his will to love others, then we love others. To love ourselves.
So then
Yeah,
it
you
should
can
not
feel.
nice.
You
No,
can
no, no.
feel.
Ask your question again. Not
My question is,
Yeah, true.
if like all these things that we are meant to do really don't go along the chain of what we want to do. Like,
Like they
being
don't feel
patient. Like if someone gets you late, you don't feel like waiting for them. Like, but these emotions are in us. So when God created us with emotions, but then we are not supposed to feel them.
I think,
That's what
in my opinion, I feel like sometimes when you want, our emotions to be validated and, all these things, of which I am a victim of, sometimes we're usually very selfish when it comes to that. Because, let's say, I am friends with Sheila. There is a time that I will get late and I will expect for her not to.
Get mad.
Yes. And there's a time that she understands, by the time she's extending grace to me, I understand that the next time she might be late. And like, I think the same way that it says treat others, it's not only in loving, but also in extending grace. You know you're a flawed human being. You know you're not perfect to everyone else. The same way you know that, expect that all your friends and everyone else, they're not perfect, and extend grace to them. Now when you come to understand that, then patience, though hard, is easily given when you understand that there is a time that I will need the grace and patience to be extended to me as well.
But that doesn't help my feeling of wanting to feel something, because it means I have to struggle with not being mad at Sheila.
Yes.
But that's the thing.
You have to struggle
do
with
the
it.
emotions
You have to struggle with it until it
when
becomes
I will never
second
feel like-
nature.
No, Nash.
When I'm doing the right
Nash.
thing, when I'm being patient.
Nash, no, let me, first of all, I think you're asking a valid question. Yeah, I'm agreeing. I think that, like, I personally, I feel God also goes through emotions. Yes.
Gets angry with us.
Gets angry with us. God said he's a jealous God. It's not the same jealousy maybe we have, but it's an expression of a certain emotion he experiences. We don't know how that manifests in him. But God is not calling us into something he is not also going through. When God gets angry, the way he treats it, like, he gets angry but he acts out of love still. I think he shows that love is a higher principle above the emotion. I feel like the emotions are part of self. That's self. And love calls us to die of self. Like you said, if love was easy, we'd all be loved. Like, it's
Sorry, break down what dying of self.
so dying of self means dying of self means like you're dying to self means that, like, you're going against what you really want to, because you remember it all stems from like, first of all, you have to understand this: free will gave rise to sin to some extent and our carnal nature. So, like, if there are no emotions, in my opinion, we'd be robots. And that means technically God would ask of us, and we do things automatically. Ile tu yani ya, like,
I still feel like you can still be very emotional robots.
I don't think so.
I'm getting to you. I'm getting
Okay, let me try.
Chala has something to say.
Yes, I'm prompting Chala to say something. But I'm responding to Sydney by saying, Nisawa, I understand the whole principle of self-denial, but like what I'm saying, there could be someone who's really wondering, then following what God means we'll never feel good emotions.
No? Can I just finish my last part and then Chala steps in? You see, Nash, I feel like this takes us also back slightly to what we were saying last time. We always look at the time when the emotions don't favor us. Those are the ones we magnify.
Yeah.
But when the emotions
But they're not majority.
are in our favor, which is most of the time, we're at bliss with God, like God, yani, you're the supreme creator. Like, when they are going against what you need, which is like say 30% of the time, then how come? Why did he create these emotions in the first place? So maybe it calls for us. It calls unto us.
I don't think someone who is struggling with a divorce right now, or someone who's struggling with a breakup right now, will tell you that majority of their life they've been feeling good. Someone else. It looks bigger than
And
that.
that's
I
the thing.
agree. That's it.
So how does this person in this situation deny themselves and choose God above all?
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like I feel this feeling. But what I'm understanding from Nash's question is, so am I supposed to put my feelings aside and die of self? Or is that what you're
I'm
asking?
asking is,
So, like, what do I
dying
do
of
with
self,
my...
is
yeah.
this choosing the path of God? Because it almost sounds as this thing we've been saying. It almost sounds as if choosing God is not fun. Because
Okay, Nash.
if I choose God, I'll never feel
Nash,
good.
before we go there, because that was the next part of the discussion. The next part of the discussion was the forms in which this love can take. Before we get there, are we all in agreement that love is a principle?
Yeah, I think that's,
Everyone is in
that's very
agreement
clear.
with that. Love.
Now my question is
No,
that principle...
We're getting there. I just want us to jump again. Like I don't want us to. The first question was, what is love? So are we all in the next part is, how do we contextualize it? So our love is a principle. How does it apply to the various situations? Like it's not black and white. But I just want us we're all in agreement. Love is a principle.
Let's see what I can say. One, it is a principle, but in my own definition, it is also an emotion. But the principle guides the emotion, not the other way around.
Sorry, the principle does
The
what?
principle guides the emotion,
Or
not the other way
then
around.
disagreement.
What's the difference between love and passion?
Supersedes the emotion.
What's the difference between love and passion?
Passion,
Passion fruit.
Huh?
Someone can be speaking so passionately, but there's nothing. There's no principle to what they're saying. They're just angry. They're just feeling love, but there's no principle.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like, what is like? Okay. I just want to understand before, and like he said, love is both a principle and an emotion. And I'm asking, I don't think it's an emotion, but I think it's just a principle. Full stop. Like what we refer to as emotion, I call passion. But I'm just trying to understand. Maybe I'm wrong. What's the difference between those two?
To me, passion comes now when for me, rather. If God is not in that equation of that emotion of love, it becomes passion. Because passion is basically some of our basic human instincts, you get. For example,
animalistic, like an animal.
Exactly.
Lion.
Which can be passionate about
For
God.
example,
not
that's exactly actually what she's saying.
So we've had this conversation before.
Just to
When you're very passionate, when the law comes, the passion
the
is out.
passion is out,
When
For example,
When the law comes, the passion is out. You've forgotten how passionate you are about God.
But that's
Remember?
something that is not love. I'm saying it's just a
Exactly.
principle.
Then
I don't
we
think
agree.
it's an emotion.
no,
Well, the emotion he's talking about is not passion.
What is that emotion?
now I'm saying, okay, let me just explain this first. There are so many instances in the Bible where God expresses his love and his emotion towards us, and that he understands what we are going through, right? If God says, blessed are the peacemakers, sorrowful, sorry, blessed are the sorrowful, for they shall
You left it open,
blessed are the sorrowful, for they shall be comforted. Do you think God doesn't understand what emotion you're going through? Isn't sorrow an emotion?
It is.
It is. Yeah. If God says in Hebrews chapter 4:18, he is able to, okay, the version I read has some very conk words. He is able to succor them who are tempted, in that he himself was tempted like as we are. Don't you think God understands the emotion you are going through when you are being tempted? He does. What is going through when what do you feel when you're being tempted? You feel sad. You feel angry, like, why are these things happening to me? Yeah. another aspect to show that God understands human emotion and He's the author of all human emotions, and how He connects it with the principle. In Exodus chapter 20, when He says, thou shalt not bow down to them, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness. And then He says, thou shalt not bow down to them nor serve them. Then He continues to add, for I am a jealous God. Yeah. Before you even get to that point of Him getting to be a jealous God, you have to understand that He brought you out of bondage, and He loved you so much that He gave His only Son. Right now, sido siwezi kudanganya, you're a good friend, nakupenda, but vitu zikidhoka hapa, I'll tell you, my first human instinct wouldn't be at him, but say those it nah.
First of all, I'm hurt, but it's not.
An emotion. Have it.
Notwithstanding, I love you, man. Like the principal guides that you get, I see, I'll call that base up human passions. My first instinct is not to even think of the principle of protecting my neighbor. My first instinct is
Protect yourself.
legs heal me.
But you come
Umeelewa?
I'm sorry about that. But they just have some bad vocabulary with a friend of mine. I can't describe the emotion. That vocabulary doesn't even have principle. For that very same reason, God shows us emotion and then gives us a principle behind why He feels that emotion. You get? It becomes passion when you're just feeling. For example, okay, this is a very bad example. David, this is a better example than the one that came first. David and his case with Uriah's wife, Bathsheba. Do you think there was any principle guiding that emotion?
But he was passionate.
He was passionate. Exactly. Moonlight, Mimi, that song. I heard there was a secret code. He was watching, yeah? There was no emotion, it's just passions awakened. Yeah? When David's son, Absalom, knew that one of their sisters was raped by the Philistines. You know the Philistines, it was?
the brother, half brother.
Leave that one. Oh, that's Jacob. It's Jacob's.
Or Jacob.
Jacob's, the Midianites.
Yeah.
These guys decided, you guys be pissed. So what do? Yeah, they even did the worst thing. You know, comment, there's not even principle behind that, how those guys were killed. It was
The
just
one they told them to circumcise
yeah,
themselves,
you
and then
guys,
they are still
and
so
now that
devoted.
exactly, now that you've done this to our sister, we forgive you, but you have to make nice of her, you know, like make her an honorable woman then. And then after that, they tell you guys, now you're welcome to our clan. Make sure you guys go through the cut, and then now we'll be good. And then 3 days, when those guys are nursing injuries, majama, kitu walifanya, wameingia box, twende. There's no principle behind that senseless kind of behavior. It's just passion. But when it comes to God, when you understand who God is, one, when you accept His position in your life, when you get to understand why He loves you so much, then now you're able to understand why His first great commandment is love the Lord thy God with all your heart. And that commandment is expounded into the first 4 of the 10 commandments. Yeah. When I understood what his question he was asking, why, so does God not want us to feel? Yeah, but emotions are good. And they are good. There are instances of rejoicing in the Bible. Yeah, very many of them contain stories of the Old Testament. One, I learned it through a song, Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho. Okay, if I have victory over a war, I'll feel victorious, man. I'll feel good, you know. Good. I'll feel good. I'll feel happy. Yeah, God understands our emotions. And another aspect as to why God understands our emotion, I brought up all those instances and a couple of verses to show that most of the time we tend to want to look for a specific verse that says God understands human love. Full stop. God understands human anger. Full stop. But He shows us that he also understands human emotions in how he relates with us in the most simple way. To quote the book people fear so much, Revelation 3:19, as many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. It shows that love also has the aspect of feeling angry. And why does someone make you angry? Mimi nakupenda lakini vitu unafanya bana, you know? No, that's not the example. The kid was complaining, but shuleni kila mara wananichapa tu kiboko tu. Yeah, ati sijapata 400 marks. And that kid wasn't feeling loved. You know, he was feeling sad. Yeah. And hiyo yake yenyewe hata ikwanga as many as I love you, ikwanga tu rebuking and chastening, you know. So God shows us his full spectrum of emotions, and if we look at it carefully, that full spectrum of emotions that he goes through is what we go through. And the reason why I say we go through is because I believe that we're a part of his creation. Yeah? And if his creation is an extension of his own image, it just doesn't stop at his image. It also moves into his emotions. That is how we are called to be. Be ye therefore perfect, like your Father in heaven is perfect. Matthew 5:48. Yeah. So there's so many aspects to it, but I'll say that God understands our human emotion. He understands what we go through even more than we do, because he's the author of it all.
Just to add on before I forget my point, he's talked. You've asked if we were supposed to be sad now because we have to follow whatever God is saying, and it brings me to the book of Genesis.
Go ahead.
Oh, so it takes me to the book of Genesis, and you see, Cain was pissed off. He was mad at Abel, and God actually sees it, and he's like, Cain, why are you angry?
Why is the countenance fallen?
Yeah, why are you sad? Like, God actually saw it, and God says, I get it, you're sad. But like Sarah said, principle trumps what? Emotion at the end of the day. And now to answer what Sido had asked, actually love itself is not an emotion. The emotion is, now you know the neurochemicals that bring about the aspect. When, let's say I'm spending time with Sarah, Sarah is nice to me, she bought me gifts, my dopamine went high. If your love language is probably gifting or quality time, your dopamine goes high. So that collective is what you're calling love really, but ideally you're just picking pieces of when your dopamine went high. And that is what now you say you are in love, but ideally it is the experience that totals to it. But love itself is actually a principle. That's why Sister White says, now that's my favorite writer, she says, if today I as Dotty, I'm getting married tomorrow, and I find out my fiancé cheated on me right now, and the wedding is tomorrow, I cut it off. Because ideally love itself is a principle. It supersedes emotion, it's not an emotion.
I tend to agree with Dotty, because this is the reason why I agree with Dotty. I think emotions are just emotions. It's just part of the human experience. That's it. But love is like a moral compass that you're supposed to master. Like you're supposed to master your emotions, and like, because emotions are very deceiving. Extremely. Have you ever noticed the things you do when your emotions are high? Like, I don't know, guys would understand this. Have you guys ever texted a chick at night? Alafu asubuhi, especially when you're dating, at night uko in the feelings, yani, sijui nini. Asubuhi, but then you look at some of those texts, uko like, what is this? What is this?
God is not agreeing.
No, but then
I cannot relate.
yes, because the reason is because at that particular moment, texting might not be bad, but your emotions are in line with your texting. Now you're doing kesho, you're not feeling the same way. So does that mean whatever you said was wrong?
Can I strengthen your point?
Go ahead. Go ahead, brother friend.
No, it's okay. Because I don't have experience. I'll speak of things that I have experience with. Emotions are so movable, such that I can make a very bad decision because I was hungry. the hunger brings
Anger.
some emotions,
Yes.
and yeah, I mean, like, it can also be just something I was scrolling on Instagram, and then no, Instagram is fine. Twitter is where there's mad people. Like, scrolling on Twitter, then someone just says things because they can say, and then now I just become, angry again at everyone in the world. So yeah, I was just strengthening your point that.
And also to Fred's point as well, I think there's a reason Jesus had to fast and seek God. He had to die of, like, hiyo njaa 40 days, bro, si rahisi. That's a very strong emotion you're battling with. Hunger. As in, it's really clouding your thoughts. For you to die yourself in that way, and you stick on principle, like, I'm here seeking God, regardless of what my body throws at me. For me, that is what I consider to be love. Because, like, I can only speak of, like, love, saving for relationship. When relationship is like in year 1, and it's very easy to open the door for your girlfriend every single time. It's harder in year 3. It's harder to do these things in year 4. But no, it's the truth. But you have to. But love requires me to do it in the same exact energy, just that it's harder then. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that I don't think, like, I feel like it seems like a good, but the nuance of love being aligned to emotion is very tricky, because love is constant. Emotions are not. And love means making decisions despite, because by the people who get into relationships, or even marriages, and if you ask them about whether they feel whatever they were feeling, they can tell you you've gone maybe even for years. 3 years, me hata sijawahi sikia what I used to feel for my wife or husband, but I still wake up and I choose this person every day, and that person is still in love.
I don't agree with you on that point completely, but I was going to say, as he said rightly so at the beginning, love is progressive, right? When you start dating, okay, I'll just use you and Sheila, there are some things that Sheila was doing and they used to make you angry. But with time, you've come to understand Sheila, or you've come to express that to Sheila, and maybe she does the same thing, but it does not.
Sheila can adjust to this. No, let me tell you.
You've also said that.
It's true, but Sheila can adjust to this. Actually, it's the inverse. And I told Sheila,
like you get more angry.
Listen, we talked about this with Sheila today. When we first started dating, we actually talked about this exact same thing today. Like, there are things I'd do for, like, babe, are you okay? Babe, are you okay? She'd be like, Akisido is so sweet. Now, babe, are you okay? Can you just give me my space?
Okay, no, but let me say the example that you've given me. The one where she falls asleep, like, totally.
Yes.
Now you're like, okay, Sheila Milala, tomorrow it will not be a whole conversation of let's talk about what happened. Like, it comes to a point where when you come to understand the other person, it becomes easier to relate to them for things that were used to evoke an emotion of anger, right? And I think that settling in and knowing and understanding the other person is what I'm talking about with time.
Yes, but Sarah, I agree. I just think it's not black and white, because the things, let me tell you, by the this is my personal experience in relationships. It's sometimes like an out of, like, I have to remove myself from these scenarios where the more we continue dating, the more where sometimes it can be, Sheila may not even have done anything that is upsetting. Let me give it sounds wrong, but let me give a very, like, she can even laugh. A joke can be cracked here, she'll laugh. Sasa mbona anacheka hivyo, mbona you get, as in, that just goes to show, baby, I might have, just story, her sleeping when we were texting might have passed, but hey, there's a new thing I'm dealing with, you get. But so every single day I choose her. Every single day I know kitu inanibo, but I know this has nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with me. and me needing to show love at this very moment, me needing to die of self. Like this is just me being my own sinful self. Hii kitu inanibo na ifai kunibo.
Okay.
So I won't react to that feeling. You get? I'll be like, no. I think there are certain nuances that happen in us that are as a result of sin. They may not be sinful, but they're happening as a result of sin. Yeah, that's just our carnal nature. So now I won't react to it.
I can give Sarah because we are winding up. So Sarah, then we finish.
I just wanted to wind up this conversation because we can go on forever with this question. What Sydney rightly said at the beginning and the verse we read was first love God, then love each other. The way I've seen my life shape now, or my very recent reflections, is I relate to God how I relate to people. So my relationship with God has been formed by how I have learned to relate to my fellow friends and family, right? So the expectations I have of my friends and family, or how I, in anger, in disappointment, in joy, how I relate with my friends and my family, that's how I'm relating to God. But what I've learned today is it should be the other way around. I should have learned how to relate to God first. Then that should form my decision on how I relate with the people around me. I just wanted people to just think about like how you relate with other people and how you relate to God, and how is that correlated, and if there's a switch that we need to do in order to get to the level that God expects us to get to.